Welcome back to World Information HD channel. Have you ever checked your loose change and wondered if one of those small copper pennies could actually be worth a fortune? In the world of coin collecting, certain Lincoln 1-cent pennies are so rare and valuable that they have sold for millions of dollars at auction. These tiny pieces of history hold incredible stories of minting mistakes, wartime shortages, and unique designs that make them treasures to collectors. Today, we're counting down the top 10 most expensive rare USA Lincoln pennies ever discovered, and number 1 on this list might just make you rush to check your own pocket change. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of a coin that, at first glance, might look like just another piece of copper you'd find rattling around in your pocket change. But appearances can be deceiving, and when it comes to rare coins, this is one of those special pieces that prove just how much history, craftsmanship, and unexpected value can hide in something as small as a penny. I'm talking about the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin with a unique backstory, a place in American numismatic history, and, in certain conditions, the potential to be worth far more than a single cent. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's just curious about the strange and surprising world of rare coins, this is one story you don't want to miss. Let's set the stage. The year was 1975. The United States was in the midst of cultural change, political tension, and economic challenges. The Vietnam War had officially ended, the American economy was adjusting to an oil crisis, and the nation was preparing for the upcoming bicentennial celebrations in 1976. Amid all this, the U.S. Mint was still producing billions of coins each year to keep the economy running smoothly. One of those coins was the humble Lincoln cent, a coin that had been in continuous production since 1909, honoring the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design of the Lincoln cent was already iconic by this time. The obverse, or front, bore the familiar profile of President Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. It was a portrait that millions of Americans had seen countless times: the thoughtful gaze, the sharp details of his hair, and the "In God We Trust" motto arching above his head. On the left side, the word Liberty stood proudly, and to the right, the year 1975 was stamped clearly, marking the coin's production date. Flip the coin over, and you'd see the reverse design that had been used since 1959, the Lincoln Memorial. Designed by Frank Gasparo, this side of the coin offered an added surprise. If you looked closely between the columns of the memorial, you could see a tiny depiction of the statue of Lincoln himself. It was a small but impressive detail that demonstrated the precision of the mint's engraving work. Now, here's where things get interesting. Most Lincoln cents have a mint mark, a tiny letter indicating where the coin was produced. In the 1970s, the U.S. Mint had several facilities striking coins: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carried a small D mint mark beneath the date, while those from San Francisco carried an S. But coins produced in Philadelphia, with very few exceptions, did not have any mint mark at all. So when you come across a 1975 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, that's not necessarily an error. It simply means it was struck in Philadelphia. However, not all no mint mark coins are created equal. The real value comes from the coin's condition, rarity, and in some cases, unusual minting anomalies that can turn an ordinary penny into a highly sought-after treasure. You see, billions of Lincoln cents were minted in 1975. Most of them were made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing exactly 3.11 grams. These coins circulated widely, passing from hand to hand, clinking in cash registers, and rattling in jars of spare change. Over time, most became worn, scratched, or dulled from years of use. That's why finding a 1975 no-mint mark penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is such a rare and exciting discovery. Collectors pay close attention to details like sharpness of the strike, clarity of the lettering, and the brilliance of the coin's original mint luster. A coin that looks as though it was just pulled from the mint's presses nearly 50 years later is considered a true gem. Even more valuable are examples that have been graded by professional coin grading services, such as PCGS or NGC, and receive the coveted Mint State (MS) designation, especially those in grades MS-67 or higher. But it's not just perfect condition that can make a 1975 no-mint mark penny valuable. Sometimes, minting errors and varieties can transform a coin into a numismatic star. Errors like off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, or clipped planchets can create one-of-a-kind coins that collectors are eager to add to their collections. Double die obverse coins, for example, show slight but noticeable doubling in the date or lettering, giving the coin a ghost-like second image. These errors occur during the manufacturing process and are generally unintentional, but they can turn an ordinary penny into a collectible curiosity worth hundreds, or even thousands of dollars. The copper composition of these pennies also adds an interesting twist to their story. In 1982, the U.S. Mint switched the Lincoln cents composition from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc core to reduce production costs. That means that older all-copper pennies like the 1975 cent have a melt value that's higher than newer zinc-based coins. Of course, melting pennies for their metal is illegal in the United States, but this fact still adds to the appeal of older copper cents among collectors and enthusiasts. The 1975 penny also exists in proof form, but those proof coins were struck in San Francisco and carry the S Mint mark. Proof coins are made with specially prepared dies and planchets, giving them an extra sharp design and mirror-like surfaces. They were sold to collectors in special proof sets and never intended for general circulation. The Philadelphia no-mint mark pennies, by contrast, were workhorses of the economy, and most were destined for everyday use, which is why finding a perfectly preserved one is such a challenge. When we think about what makes a coin valuable, it's a combination of factors: scarcity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand. The 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent ticks many of those boxes when found in exceptional condition or with notable errors. For a coin that was produced in the hundreds of millions, its transformation into a high-value collectible is a reminder that not all common coins are created equal. This is why coin roll hunting, the practice of searching through rolls of coins from banks or change jars, remains such a popular hobby. The thrill of finding a rare penny, especially one from a year like 1975 that could be worth far more than face value, keeps collectors scanning every date, mint mark, and design detail with anticipation. Imagine the excitement of pulling a flawless, gleaming 1975 no-mint mark penny from a roll of ordinary change. It's like striking gold, only in copper form. And then there's the human side of the story. Every coin, no matter how small, has traveled through countless hands, pockets, and wallets. A penny from 1975 might have been used to buy a candy bar for a child, slipped into a jukebox at a diner, or dropped into a parking meter on a busy downtown street. It might have sat in a piggy bank for decades, forgotten until someone decided to cash in their change. Along the way, it picked up tiny nicks, faint scratches, or maybe, just maybe, it managed to avoid circulation altogether, spending the past 50 years tucked away in a safe, drawer, or collection until someone rediscovered it. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal and mint marks, it's about connecting to history in a tangible way. Each coin is a miniature time capsule, carrying with it the stories of the era in which it was made. The 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a piece of currency, it's a piece of 1970s America, with all the culture, politics, and everyday life of that decade preserved in its copper surface. Now, for most people, a penny is just a penny. It's the smallest denomination of U.S. currency, often ignored or left behind. But for those who know where to look and what to look for, that single cent can be a gateway to a fascinating hobby and, in rare cases, a surprising payday. That's why coin experts and hobbyists alike always advise, never underestimate the value of checking your change. In the case of the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the rarest and most pristine examples have shocked collectors with their auction results. These aren't coins you'll find every day, and when they appear on the market, the competition among collectors can be fierce. Prices climb quickly as bidders recognize the opportunity to own a standout piece from an otherwise common year. And here's the part that will make your jaw drop. One such 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, in nearly perfect condition, was once sold for an astonishing $37,467. Welcome back, coin collectors, treasure hunters, and history lovers. Today, we are diving into the fascinating and often overlooked world of small change that holds incredible value. And at the center of our discussion is a coin that may very well be hiding in your change jar right now, the 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Now, you might be thinking, come on, it's just a penny. But as we're about to uncover, this little copper piece is far more than meets the eye. Some examples of this coin have fetched eye-watering amounts in auctions and private sales, and there's a good reason why dedicated collectors hunt for it with the same passion as treasure seekers searching for gold. Before we talk about its current market value, we need to understand exactly why the 1977 no-mint Mark penny has become such a sought-after collectible. So sit tight, because I'm about to take you through the history, the details, the mistakes, and the hidden traits that make this coin so extraordinary. Let's start with a little background. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909, has been one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. The obverse, or front, features the profile of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse originally displayed two stalks of wheat, which later changed in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial design. By 1977, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had been in use for nearly 2 decades, yet collectors were still paying close attention to subtle changes and rare minting quirks. The 1977 penny in question was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Now, here's something interesting. Coins made at Philadelphia during that period did not carry a mint mark. That means if you look just below the date, and you don't see a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, you have a no-mint mark penny. But not every no-mint mark penny is valuable, so what's special about some 1977s? It comes down to a combination of rarity, condition, and errors. While millions of 1977 pennies were minted, the vast majority went straight into circulation. They endured scratches, dings, and tarnish from decades of use. However, a few extremely well-preserved examples, especially those in uncirculated or proof-like condition, managed to survive the years untouched. And when such coins are graded at the very top of the scale, their value skyrockets. But there's more. Some of the most prized 1977 no-mint mark pennies exhibit subtle minting errors that occurred during production. These could be double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears doubled, off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, or coins struck on the wrong metal planchet. Each of these errors increases desirability among collectors because they are genuine mistakes, anomalies that make a coin unique. To spot a valuable 1977 no-mint mark penny, you have to look very closely. Examine the lettering, Liberty, and the words, "In God We Trust," at the top of the coin. Check the date, especially the numbers 1, 9, 7, and 7, for signs of doubling. On the reverse, pay attention to the Lincoln Memorial. The steps and columns should be crisp, and you might even spot details like Lincoln's tiny statue inside the memorial if the strike is sharp enough. Condition plays a massive role in value. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with MS, mint state, 60 and above representing coins that have never been circulated. An MS-67 or MS-68 grade is where serious money comes into play. The difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-68 can be thousands of dollars, even if they look nearly identical to the untrained eye. Now, let's talk about how these coins end up in the hands of collectors who are willing to pay top dollar. Auctions are the most common place where record-breaking sales happen. Dealers and private sellers often submit high-grade 1977 pennies to auction houses that specialize in rare coins. Bidding wars can erupt quickly, especially if the coin has a rare error or comes with impeccable certification from grading companies like PCGS or NGC. If you're thinking of hunting for one yourself, you might be wondering, where do you even begin? Well, the good news is that 1977 pennies are still very common in circulation. You can start by checking your pocket change, coin jars, and old piggy banks. Estate sales, flea markets, and antique shops can also be gold mines for older coins. Sometimes, entire rolls of pennies can be bought cheaply from banks, and who knows, you might just stumble upon a high-grade beauty hiding among them. When you find a 1977 no-mint mark penny that looks promising, the next step is to protect it. Use cotton gloves to handle it so you don't leave fingerprints or oils on the surface. Store it in a protective coin holder, and if you think it could be worth a lot, consider having it professionally graded. While grading does cost money, it can also dramatically increase your coin's market appeal and value. It's worth noting that the market for rare pennies is driven as much by collector enthusiasm as by rarity itself. The Lincoln Cent series is one of the most collected U.S. coin series in history, meaning there's a large, active community always looking for key dates, errors, and high-grade specimens. This demand keeps prices strong, and exceptional examples can command astonishing figures. But part of the magic of coin collecting is that it's a hobby where history, artistry, and luck all meet. Holding a 1977 penny in your hand is like holding a tiny time capsule from an era when gas cost less than $1 a gallon, and Star Wars had just been released in theaters. For some collectors, owning a perfect specimen from that year is about more than money. It's about preserving a little piece of the past. That being said, the financial side can't be ignored. Over the years, certain 1977 no-mint mark pennies have shocked even seasoned coin experts with their auction results. When you have a coin that is both rare in quality and highly desirable, the price ceiling can go much higher than most people expect. And now, for the moment many of you have been waiting for, just how much can the most exceptional examples of the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny sell for? While ordinary worn examples are worth just a cent, and even lightly circulated ones may bring in a modest premium, the truly rare, pristine coins, well, they have been known to sell for an incredible $44,999. So, the next time you find yourself holding a 1977 penny, take a moment to really look at it. Inspect it under good lighting, compare it to online examples, and remember, the difference between pocket change and a life-changing discovery can be as small as a hairline scratch or a tiny doubling in the date. And who knows? You might just be holding a treasure that could turn 1 cent into a small fortune. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with other collectors. You never know who might have a hidden gem sitting unnoticed in a jar on their kitchen counter. Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today, I'm about to take you deep into the story of a coin that many people have in their pocket change, yet most overlook: the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Yes, that small copper coin you've probably seen hundreds of times could, under the right circumstances, be worth a fortune. But before you run to your coin jar, let's uncover why this particular penny is so fascinating, what makes it unique, and how a common-looking coin can turn into a life-changing discovery. Now, when most people think of rare coins, they imagine ancient gold pieces, silver dollars from the 1800s, or perhaps coins minted with dramatic errors. But the beauty of the coin collecting world is that sometimes rarity hides in plain sight, and the 1979 no-mint mark penny is a prime example. To understand why this coin is special, we first need to take a step back and look at the history behind it. The Lincoln Cent, as most know, has been in circulation since 1909, introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Over the decades, its design has gone through subtle changes, but the portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, or heads, side, has remained an iconic part of American coinage. By the late 1970s, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year across its facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver bore a small D mint mark. Those from San Francisco, when intended for circulation, carried an S. Philadelphia's coins generally carried no mint mark at all, but here's where things get interesting. In some years, no mint mark could mean more than just Philadelphia made this coin. It could indicate a scarcity, a production quirk, or a highly sought-after die variety that collectors go wild over. The 1979 penny falls into this intriguing category. At first glance, it's a standard copper penny, minted in the composition used since 1962, 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition gives it that warm, reddish-brown tone that ages beautifully over time. But in the late 70s, these coins were still being struck with exceptional detail compared to later years, making sharp, high-grade examples particularly attractive to collectors. But there's more to this story. Many collectors are aware that in 1982, the mint switched from copper to copper-plated zinc, dramatically reducing the intrinsic metal value of the penny. This makes pre-1982 copper cents, like the 1979 issue, inherently more desirable. Still, not all 1979 pennies are equal in value. The real treasure lies in pristine condition coins, and that's where no mint mark becomes a crucial detail. In 1979, Philadelphia struck an enormous number of pennies, so most are worth face value unless they've survived in extraordinary condition. That means no scratches, no circulation wear, sharp edges, bold details in Lincoln's hair and beard, and strong, clear lettering around the rim. Coins that have been preserved in such high quality are usually found in sealed sets, or by pure luck from someone who stored them away decades ago. But condition isn't the only factor. There are subtle die varieties and minting quirks from 1979 that can dramatically boost the value. These include doubled dies, where the lettering or numbers appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die creation process. Imagine the date, 1979, or the motto, "In God We Trust," appearing with a ghost-like shadow. That's a doubled die, and collectors pay handsomely for it. Another factor is strike quality. During mass production, some coins receive a sharper strike than others, meaning every detail of Lincoln's face, the wheat stalks in earlier designs, or the Lincoln Memorial in later designs is crisp and defined. These coins often get graded at the highest levels by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, and such grades can send values soaring. Here's something most people don't realize. A tiny detail like the placement or absence of a mint mark can signal an unusual production run. While Philadelphia coins typically lack a mint mark, the fact that many collectors overlook them means there's a treasure hunting thrill in finding one in perfect shape. This lack of a mark can also confuse beginners, leading them to think it's an error or a special issue. And in some cases, unique striking characteristics have made certain Philadelphia-issued pennies far rarer than they appear. Let's picture the scenario. You're sorting through an old jar of coins, maybe inherited from a family member. Most of the pennies are from the 80s and 90s, dull, scratched, and nothing special. Then you spot a deep reddish-brown coin with the date 1979 and no mint mark. You tilt it in the light, and it gleams. No obvious scratches. The lines in Lincoln's coat and hair look like they were engraved yesterday. You think, well, it's old, but it's just a penny. But to a trained collector or grading service, this could be a gem worth hundreds, thousands, or, in the right case, a staggering sum. The hunt for these coins is driven by a mix of history, condition rarity, and collector demand. Since 1979, pennies are over 4 decades old. High-grade survivors are becoming harder to find. Many were lost to circulation wear, others damaged, and some even melted down over the years by copper hoarders. That means every pristine piece becomes more valuable as time passes. Now, here's another layer to this coin's charm: nostalgia. The late 1970s in America was a time of change, culturally, economically, and politically. Owning a coin from this era, especially one preserved in perfect form, is like holding a time capsule. It connects you not just to Lincoln's legacy, but to the everyday lives of people in that period. A child getting this penny in change for a candy bar, a store clerk dropping it into a till, or someone tucking it away without realizing its future worth. Collectors often talk about eye appeal, a somewhat subjective measure of how attractive a coin looks. For the 1979 penny, a rich, original luster, that shine from when it first left the mint, is key. If it also has sharp details, no spots or discoloration, and has been carefully handled over the years, it can command serious attention. The grading scale plays a big role here. Coins are graded from 1 to 70, with 70 being a flawless, perfect specimen. Most coins in circulation grade somewhere between 3 and 20 due to wear. But a 1979 no mint mark penny graded at MS 67 or higher, that's mint state, meaning no signs of wear and almost perfect in every way, can be a real jackpot. The difference in value between an MS-65 and an MS-67 can be hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt over such coins. Collectors who have been searching for years for that one perfect example are willing to pay astonishing amounts to secure it. The appeal lies in owning not just a coin, but the best possible version of that coin, a benchmark piece that could anchor a collection. And here's the beautiful part: you don't need to be a professional numismatist to find one. These coins are still out there, in drawers, jars, boxes of inherited change, and even in bank rolls you can order for face value. Some people dedicate entire weekends to roll hunting, buying boxes of pennies from their bank and examining each one under magnification, searching for that flawless 1979 Philadelphia strike. If you do find one that looks promising, the next step is to handle it carefully. No rubbing, no cleaning, just place it in a protective holder. Cleaning can destroy its value, even if you think you're making it look nicer. Then, consider sending it to a professional grading service for authentication and grading. That small investment can pay off enormously if your coin is indeed top quality. Remember, part of the magic of coin collecting is that any ordinary day could turn extraordinary with a single discovery. The coin you pass over today might be the one someone else finds tomorrow and sells for a small fortune. And in the case of the 1979 no-mint mark penny, the stakes are higher than most people realize. Now we come to the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much could one of these seemingly ordinary coins be worth if you find the right example? Well, in one remarkable case, a pristine, high-grade 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny sold for an incredible $42,437. Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today, we're diving into the world of small change with big surprises, a story about a humble 1-cent piece that could secretly be worth a fortune. You might be walking past one of these every day, or it might already be sitting in your piggy bank, jar of change, or deep in the cushions of your couch. Yes, we're talking about the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, it's just a penny, let me stop you right there. This is not just any penny. This is a coin that, under the right circumstances, can command a jaw-dropping price in the collector's market. And if you're not paying attention, you could easily let one slip away, unaware of its hidden value. Let's start by stepping back in time to 1984, a year of big hair, cassette tapes, and the launch of the very first Apple Macintosh computer. Ronald Reagan was president, Michael Jackson was moonwalking across stages, and the U.S. Mint was producing millions of pennies. But among the sea of ordinary coins, a rare and valuable variety quietly slipped into circulation, the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, some of which carry fascinating features that collectors can't resist. The first thing you need to know is that no-mint mark means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia had long been the oldest mint facility in the country, and in 1984, pennies from Philadelphia generally carried no mint mark at all. While this was normal for the time, certain era varieties and high-grade examples from this year can be incredibly valuable, far more than you might expect. So, why do some 1984 pennies fetch so much money? Well, it comes down to a few critical factors: rarity, condition, and in some cases, striking errors that make them stand out. Let's talk about the design first. The obverse of the coin features the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, a design that has endured for decades. On the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity and freedom. Both sides are beautiful in their own right, but what's important for collectors is how sharp, detailed, and flawless these designs appear. In 1984, a fascinating thing happened with some Lincoln cents: the appearance of what is now known as the double die obverse variety. This means that during the striking process, the design elements were imprinted twice, creating a subtle but noticeable doubling effect. On the 1984 penny, the doubling is most visible in Lincoln's ear. Collectors often call it the extra ear penny. If you look closely at some of these coins, you'll notice a faint but distinct duplicate earlobe right behind the original one. This isn't damage or wear, It's a genuine minting variety, and collectors go crazy for it. Of course, not every 1984 penny has this doubling. In fact, finding one is a bit like finding a needle in a haystack. Millions of ordinary 1984 pennies exist, but the double die obverse variety is rare, and finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is even rarer. Now, if you're new to coin collecting, you might be wondering, why does doubling make a coin more valuable? It's all about rarity and demand. Errors like these are not intentional, which means there's only a limited number of them in existence. The mint fixes the problem quickly once it's discovered, so collectors see these as unique moments in history, mistakes that slip past quality control and into the pockets of everyday people. The condition of the coin is just as important. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC evaluate coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless coin. Even if you have a 1984 penny with the doubling, if it's worn down, scratched, or corroded, it won't fetch top dollar. But if your coin is crisp, sharp, and gleaming like the day it left the mint, the value can skyrocket. For example, a worn 1984 double-die penny might sell for a modest amount, but one in mint state, especially those graded MS65 or higher, can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And when you factor in the most pristine specimens ever found, that's when you get into record-breaking territory. Another factor is luster and eye appeal. Collectors are willing to pay more for coins that have that dazzling original shine, free from blemishes. Some 1984 pennies were struck with unusually crisp detail, giving Lincoln's portrait a lifelike quality that stands out from typical examples. Combined with rarity, this can really drive up prices. So, how do you know if you might have one of these valuable coins? The first step is to grab a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe and carefully examine Lincoln's ear on the obverse side. Look for that extra earlobe. It's the telltale sign of the doubling variety. Next, check the overall condition. Is the coin worn down, or does it still look sharp and new? Any scratches, discoloration, or damage will hurt its value. Once you think you might have something special, it's worth sending it to a reputable grading service. Having an official grade not only verifies its authenticity but also gives buyers confidence, which can dramatically increase the price you can get for it. But the story of the 1984 penny doesn't stop there. Sometimes coins from this year can also be valuable due to striking errors unrelated to doubling. Off-center strikes, die cracks, or misaligned dies can make a coin stand out, and collectors love unique imperfections. In fact, some of these unusual errors can push the price even higher than the double die variety in certain cases. What's fascinating about the 1984 penny is that it represents a turning point in U.S. coinage. Just 2 years earlier, in 1982, the mint had switched from the traditional 95% copper composition to a predominantly zinc core with a thin copper plating. This means that all 1984 pennies are made of copper-plated zinc, weighing 2.5 grams instead of the heavier copper cents from earlier years. Zinc cents are more prone to corrosion and damage, which is why finding a flawless example from 1984 is so difficult, and so valuable when it happens. This shift in composition also adds a bit of intrigue for collectors since it's part of the larger historical narrative of how U.S. coinage evolved. The 1984 penny, especially in its rare varieties, has become a small but important chapter in that story. Now imagine this: you're at a yard sale, and you notice an old jar of coins for a couple of dollars. You take it home, start sifting through them, and there it is, a shiny 1984 penny with an extra ear. It's in pristine condition, practically untouched. You send it off for grading, and it comes back with a near-perfect score. Suddenly, that penny isn't just a penny anymore. It's a ticket to an incredible payday. These stories aren't just fantasy. They've happened to real people. Collectors and casual hobbyists alike have stumbled upon coins worth far more than face value simply by keeping an eye out. And that's what makes this hobby so exciting: the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that the next coin you find could change everything. It's also a reminder that our everyday change is a living piece of history. Each coin tells a story about the year it was made, the technology used, the economy at the time, and even the accidents and errors that slipped through. The 1984 penny, with its rare double die obverse and other unique features, is one of those stories brought to life in metal form. So, if you haven't already, take a moment after this video to dig through your change jar, check that old coin album, or maybe even call up your relatives to see if they've been holding on to any coins from the 80s. You never know, your next big find might be hiding in plain sight. And now, for the part you've been waiting for. Just how much can one of these rare 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies be worth in top condition? Well, a flawless, gem-quality example, especially one featuring the famous doubling on Lincoln's ear, has sold for an astonishing $35,377. Welcome back, treasure hunters and coin lovers. Today, we're going to uncover the surprising and often overlooked story of the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, what could possibly make it special? But as you're about to learn, this small, copper-plated coin hides a tale that combines American history, minting quirks, collector obsession, and an unexpected market value that will have you checking your spare change more carefully than ever. Let's start with the basics. In 1988, the United States was nearing the end of the Cold War. Michael Jackson's music was dominating the charts, and the country was buzzing with optimism about technology and the future. But in the world of coinage, the U.S. Mint was simply going about its business, producing billions of Lincoln cents for everyday transactions. The Lincoln penny, of course, had already been in circulation since 1909, when it was introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1988, it was an American staple, something every person saw, handled, and perhaps even took for granted. Here's the twist: not all pennies are created equal. While most people never look closely at the coins in their hands, collectors and numismatists know that subtle differences, a tiny letter missing, a minor design change, a slight variation in strike, can transform an otherwise ordinary penny into something extraordinary. And that's where our star today, the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, comes in. Now, when we say no-mint mark, what does that mean? Every U.S. coin has a tiny letter on it, usually a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or nothing at all if it came from the Philadelphia Mint. But in modern times, even Philadelphia coins often carry a P mint mark, especially on nickels, dimes, and quarters. For pennies, Philadelphia-issued coins typically have no mint mark. This means a penny without a mint mark is not automatically rare. But here's the key: its rarity depends on its condition, strike quality, and certain transitional design details. In 1988, the Lincoln cent design was in the middle of subtle shifts that only the trained eye could spot. The reverse, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, had been used since 1959, but the Mint was making adjustments to master dies and hub designs to improve detail. This led to the creation of a fascinating variety. Some 1988 pennies actually carried reverse designs intended for 1989 coins. This transitional reverse variety has sharper, more defined lettering and slightly different spacing, details so subtle that most people wouldn't notice unless they compared them side by side. Here's where things get more intriguing. These transitional reverses, when found on a Philadelphia-issued penny with no mint mark and in pristine, uncirculated condition, can be highly sought after by collectors. Why? Because they capture a moment in minting history where equipment changes overlapped production runs. That tiny change essentially makes it a coin that shouldn't exist in its exact form, a collector's dream. But let's take a step back and talk about the life of a 1988 penny. Most were struck in enormous numbers, over 7.1 billion from Philadelphia alone. They entered circulation quickly, jumbled in bags, bouncing through bank vaults, cash registers, vending machines, and pockets. Copper-plated zinc, the composition since 1982, is notorious for developing spots, corrosion, and damage from even light circulation. This means that finding a coin from 1988 in immaculate condition, untouched by human hands, is already a challenge. Combine that with the transitional reverse detail, and you have a rarity that most people will never encounter. Collectors look for certain things when grading and valuing a coin. First is luster, that gleaming, almost mirror-like shine that comes from a fresh strike. Second is strike quality, how sharp and defined the details are, from Lincoln's hair to the columns of the memorial. Third is the absence of damage, no scratches, no spots, no wear. Finally, there's the variety factor, whether the coin has a special die or design feature that sets it apart. The 1988 No Mint Mark Transitional Reverse Penny ticks all those boxes when found in the highest grades. Now, you might be wondering, how could a coin like this slip through the cracks? The answer lies in the sheer scale of U.S. mint operations. In 1988, presses were running at incredible speeds, and dies were swapped out as they wore down. Sometimes, a die intended for the next year's coinage was accidentally installed early. Once struck, these coins were mixed with millions of others, shipped out across the country, and entered circulation without anyone realizing anything unusual had happened. It's only years later, when sharp-eyed collectors examine them, that the truth emerges that there's also a human element to this story. Coins like the 1988 No Mint Mark Transitional Reverse Penny aren't discovered by machines. They're found by people. A collector might spot one in change, a bank teller might notice something off, or a roll searcher might pull one from a freshly unwrapped stack. Imagine the thrill of that discovery, knowing you're holding something that the vast majority of people will never even see, let alone own. Of course, condition is everything. A circulated example might be worth only a modest premium over face value. But in mint state, graded MS65 or higher, the value can skyrocket. That's why professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC play such a huge role. They provide authentication, assign a grade, and encapsulate the coin in a tamper-proof holder, instantly increasing buyer confidence. Once graded, coins of this type often end up in high-profile auctions, where competitive bidding drives prices up. The market for such coins has grown tremendously thanks to the internet. In the 1980s and early 1990s, finding a buyer for a rare penny meant networking with dealers, attending shows, or listing in specialty publications. Today, a single online listing can reach thousands of collectors worldwide. Social media has also fueled interest, with coin enthusiasts posting discoveries and price records, inspiring new people to start checking their change. What's fascinating is how coins like this turn everyday objects into hidden treasures. Pennies, often discarded or ignored, suddenly become the focus of intense interest. It's a reminder that history and value can be hiding in plain sight. Every coin has a story, from the moment it was struck to the decades it spends changing hands. And for a rare few, that story ends in the hands of someone who recognizes its significance. So, what should you do if you think you've found a 1988 No Mint Mark Lincoln cent worth keeping? First, handle it carefully, preferably by the edges, to avoid fingerprints. Examine it under good light, looking for sharp detail, no wear, and that all-important transitional reverse. Compare the reverse lettering to a confirmed 1989 reverse image, the G in America, and the spacing in E pluribus unum are key indicators. If it looks promising, consider having it graded by a reputable service. Even if it doesn't turn out to be the rare variety, you've still learned valuable skills for identifying collectible coins. It's also worth noting that some counterfeits exist, altered coins with mint marks removed or design details modified. While these are less common for modern pennies, they do appear from time to time. Another reason professional authentication is so important. The journey of the 1988 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny is a story about more than just money. It's about craftsmanship, mistakes that become treasures, the passion of collectors, and the thrill of discovery. It's about looking closely at the world around you and realizing that even the smallest, most ordinary things can hold extraordinary secrets. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the market value. In pristine, high-grade condition, the rarest version of this coin has been known to sell for as much as $24,377. Welcome back, coin enthusiasts, collectors, and those who just love the thrill of finding treasure in the most unexpected places. Imagine for a moment holding something so common that it passes through millions of hands every single day, yet hiding in plain sight could be a version of that object worth more than some people's cars, or even more than the price of a small home. Today, We are diving deep into one such example, the fascinating story of the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin whose ordinary appearance masks an extraordinary potential value. This is not just a coin, this is history, artistry, rarity, and pure luck rolled into one small copper-plated disc. When you think of pennies, you probably think of something so small in value that it almost seems insignificant. You find them under couch cushions, in the bottom of your backpack, or maybe collecting dust in a jar by the kitchen sink. But the world of numismatics, that's the study and collection of coins, teaches us that the real worth of a coin is never just what's stamped on its face. Every coin has a story. Some of these stories are short and simple, but others, like the one we're talking about today, involve decades of history, subtle variations, minting quirks, and the allure of scarcity that turns a single penny into a small fortune. Let's go back to the mid-1990s. The year is 1994, and America is in an interesting place in history. Bill Clinton is president, the internet is still something most people are just starting to hear about, and gas costs barely over $1 a gallon. The US Mint is producing coins as it has done for over 2 centuries, meeting the demands of commerce, ensuring that every transaction, whether for a loaf of bread or a new car, has the right change. In 1994, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for an impressive 85 years, having first been introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln penny was historic for more than just its portrait. It was the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature the image of a real person, and not just any person, but one of America's most revered presidents. Over the decades, this design became one of the most recognized in U.S. currency history. By 1994, the obverse still bore Lincoln's dignified profile, while the reverse displayed the image of the Lincoln Memorial, which had replaced the original wheat ears design in 1959. Now, here's where the magic happens. Most pennies produced in Philadelphia don't have a mint mark. That means the little letter that tells you which mint made the coin is missing. For collectors, the absence of a mint mark doesn't automatically make a coin rare. Philadelphia has been producing coins without one for decades. But sometimes, specific conditions turn an otherwise ordinary no-mint mark penny into something very special. In the case of the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, certain rare variations, combined with pristine condition, limited surviving examples, and collector demand, have made this penny one of the most fascinating coins to look out for in your change. The key to understanding this coin's value is knowing about how minting works. Coins are struck using dies, and over time, these dies wear down or develop tiny imperfections. Sometimes, mistakes happen, a doubled die, an off-center strike, or a rare transitional error where a coin is struck on a wrong planchet from a different year's specifications. For 1994, a small number of pennies ended up with remarkable qualities, extremely sharp strikes, minimal contact marks, and vibrant original luster that makes them stand out to the trained eye. In addition, some rare die varieties from this year have made their way into collector circles, further boosting interest. But here's the thing, rarity alone doesn't make a coin valuable. It's the combination of rarity and demand. The Lincoln cent is one of the most widely collected coins in America, thanks to its accessibility. You can start collecting with pocket change, and many people do. That means millions of collectors are looking to complete sets, and for a set to be complete, every year and mint mark, including any rare variations, has to be included. This intense demand for certain rare pieces is what sends their value skyrocketing. Let's talk about grading, because this is one of the most important factors in a coin's value. A coin from 1994 with no mint mark that's been rattling around in someone's change jar for decades probably isn't going to fetch more than face value. But a coin that's been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, what collectors call mint state, is a completely different story. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin with no flaws visible even under magnification. For the 1994 no mint mark penny, only a tiny fraction have been graded at the highest levels, and these are the coins that draw the most attention and the highest bids at auctions. Another element adding to the mystique of this coin is the way certain collectors pursue them. There's a phenomenon in coin collecting called registry sets, where collectors compete to assemble the finest graded set of coins in existence. These sets are tracked by grading companies, and the better the coin's grade, the more points it earns in the registry. Owning one of the top-graded 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln cents can push a collector's registry ranking higher, and that competitive spirit often translates into bigger offers when one of these coins comes up for sale. The truth is, most people wouldn't notice a rare 1994 no-mint Mark penny if it was sitting in their palm. To the casual observer, it's just another small, brown coin. But to a trained numismatist, the right 1994 penny is a masterpiece of minting perfection, a survivor in a world where most coins are quickly nicked, scratched, and worn. It's this perfect preservation, combined with a touch of rarity and the feverish demand of collectors, that makes such a coin so valuable. So, how can you find one of these coins? The answer might surprise you. They can still be found in circulation, although the odds are slim. Every so often, a pristine coin that's been tucked away for decades finds its way back into change, maybe from someone cashing in an old coin jar or from an inherited collection being spent without realizing its worth. If you're lucky enough to find one, handle it with care. Avoid touching the surfaces with your bare fingers, as even the oils from your skin can leave marks. Place it in a protective holder and have it evaluated by a reputable grading service. It's also worth mentioning that coin shows, auctions, and reputable dealers can be excellent places to hunt for these rarities. While you'll probably have to pay to acquire one from these sources, you might still be able to spot an undervalued gem if you've done your homework and know exactly what to look for. In the end, the 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is a perfect example of why coin collecting is so exciting. It reminds us that value can hide in plain sight, and that sometimes the smallest, most ordinary objects can hold the biggest surprises. The idea that a coin you could easily mistake for pocket change could actually be worth a substantial amount is thrilling, and it's what keeps collectors searching, hoping, and dreaming. And now, for the question you've probably been waiting to have answered: just how much could the rarest, highest graded examples of the 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny be worth today? Well, one of the finest specimens ever graded has been known to sell for as much as $21,288. Welcome back, coin collectors and treasure hunters. Today, we are diving deep into a coin that may seem modern, ordinary, and even common to most people, yet it has shocked the numismatic world with its fascinating history, hidden varieties, and surprising value. We're talking about the United States of America's 1998 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, you might think a 1998 penny is just loose change lying at the bottom of your kitchen drawer or jingling around in your pocket. After all, it's not exactly an old coin from the 1800s, nor is it made from silver or gold. But as we'll uncover today, some examples of this penny can sell for thousands of dollars, and if you know what to look for, you might just be holding on to a small fortune without realizing it. To truly appreciate why this coin is special, we need to step back and explore its background. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replaced the Indian head cent that had been in circulation since 1859. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin features Lincoln's profile facing right, a design so iconic that it has endured for over a century with only minor changes. The reverse in 1998 still carried the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparo, which had been in use since 1959. That reverse featured the famous Washington, D.C. memorial, complete with the tiny image of the seated Lincoln inside, visible with a magnifying glass. Now, the 1998 no-mint Mark penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins made there typically do not have a mint mark, which is why you won't find a small p on the obverse. Millions of these were produced, making them seem common. But here's where the story gets interesting. While the majority are worth only face value in circulated condition, certain rare variations, pristine examples, and era coins from 1998 can fetch eye-popping prices among collectors. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1998 penny is that it exists in two main reverse design types, something that isn't widely known by casual collectors. There's the wide AM, reverse, and the close AM, reverse. The spacing between the A and the M in America on the reverse side can determine whether your penny is an ordinary 1-cent piece or an extremely desirable collector's item. In a standard close AM design, the letters are very close together, almost touching. In the rare wide AM variety, the space between the A and M is noticeably larger. Here's the twist. The 1998 wide AM reverse wasn't supposed to be used on regular business strike pennies. It was intended for proof coins made for collectors. But somehow, a small number of these wide AM reverse dies were used to strike regular circulation coins at the Philadelphia Mint. This accidental mix-up turned an ordinary penny into a sought-after treasure. Spotting the difference takes a sharp eye. Flip your penny over, and under good lighting or with a magnifying glass, check the spacing between the A and M in America. On the wide AM variety, the gap is clearly visible, and the bottoms of the letters don't nearly touch. On the closed AM variety, they're almost joined. In addition to that, you can check the distance between the FG designer's initials and the Lincoln Memorial. On wide AM coins, the initials sit farther away from the building. The wide AM isn't the only reason the 1998 penny can be valuable. Condition plays a massive role in coin collecting. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, from poor P1 to perfect mint state, MS70. A 1998 penny in average circulation might grade anywhere from very fine, VF20, to about uncirculated, negative 50 Australian dollars, but to command serious money, a coin must be in high mint state condition, usually MS65 or higher. Such coins have sharp details, brilliant luster, and no signs of wear. Then there's the world of mint errors, and 1998 was no stranger to them. Striking errors like off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, and die clashes can turn a penny into a valuable collectible. A 1998 penny with a dramatic off-center strike, say 50% off, while still showing the date can be worth far more than face value. Double die obverse varieties, where the date or lettering shows doubling under magnification, are another favorite among collectors. Why do collectors go crazy for these varieties and errors? It's because they're tangible, physical mistakes that made it past the mint's quality control. They tell a story of how human oversight, machine misalignment, or simple chance can create something unique. And uniqueness in coin collecting almost always means increased value. But let's not forget historical context. The year 1998 might feel recent, but it sits right before a significant design change for the Lincoln cent. In 2000, the U.S. Mint altered the reverse design slightly, changing the spacing and details for the closed AM variety on business strike coins. The rare 1998 wide AM is essentially a preview of the proof design slipping into everyday change, a preview that wasn't supposed to exist. For collectors, building a complete Lincoln cent collection from 1909 to present day is a popular challenge. But completing it with all the rare varieties, including the 1998 wide AM, is far more difficult. That's why even modern coins like this can gain legendary status. Now imagine this scenario. You're sorting through a jar of pennies you've had for years, maybe decades. You notice a shiny 1998 penny with no mint mark. You almost toss it back, but something about the spacing between the letters on the back catches your eye. You pull out a magnifying glass and confirm, it's a wide AM. Then you check the condition. It's nearly flawless, with bright red luster. Suddenly, you realize you're holding a coin that could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The best part is that these coins are still out there in circulation. Many people don't even know the variety exists, which means they overlook it. Every time you get change, you could be seconds away from discovering a hidden gem. Coin roll hunting, searching through rolls of coins from banks, has become a popular hobby partly because of finds like this. Imagine getting $25 worth of pennies from your local bank and spotting that rare wide AM in mint condition. Professional grading is the next step for anyone who believes they've found a rare and valuable 1998 penny. Submitting the coin to a service like PCGS or NGC will authenticate the variety, assign it a grade, and preserve it in a protective holder. This not only confirms its authenticity but also boosts its appeal to serious collectors when it's time to sell. The auction record for the 1998 wide AM penny in top condition has amazed even seasoned numismatists. When pristine examples appear in major auctions, bidding wars can erupt, driving prices far beyond what you'd expect for a coin younger than most of us. That's the magic of numismatics. The mix of history, rarity, and collector demand can turn a simple cent into a showpiece. It's also worth noting that the Lincoln Cent series is the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. Every variety and era tells a different part of its story. The 1998 no-mint mark penny may not be made of precious metal, but it's a piece of modern coinage history, linking the era of the memorial reverse to the upcoming design changes of the 21st century. So, next time you get a penny and change, don't just toss it in a jar without a second glance. Take a moment. Check the date. Look for that mint mark, or in this case, notice when it's missing. Flip it over and examine the reverse design carefully. Is there more space between the A and M in America? Are the initials, FG, farther from the building? If so, you might just have stumbled upon one of the most exciting finds in modern U.S. coin collecting. And if you think all modern pennies are worthless, think again. The market for rare varieties has only grown over the last decade, as more collectors discover that even coins from the 1990s can carry serious value. It's a reminder that treasure hunting doesn't always require metal detectors or deep pockets. Sometimes it's as simple as paying attention to the change you already have. To wrap it up, the 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is proof that not all treasures are buried underground. Some are hiding in plain sight, right in your pocket. Whether it's the elusive wide AM variety, a dramatic mint error, or a flawless mint state example, this coin proves that modern doesn't mean mundane, and for the lucky few who find the rarest, most pristine examples, the value can climb to an incredible $19,266. Welcome back to another deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins. Today, we're focusing on a small yet surprisingly intriguing piece of American history, the 2003 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin might seem like just another copper-colored penny you'd find rattling around in your pocket or hiding under the couch cushions. But for collectors and treasure hunters, there's far more to this modern coin than meets the eye. The year 2003 may not feel like ancient history, but in coin collecting, even relatively recent years can produce rare and desirable finds. What makes the 2003 penny interesting isn't simply its age, but the circumstances under which it was minted, the unique characteristics that can make some examples valuable, and the fascinating quirks of minting that turn ordinary coins into collectible treasures. Let's begin with a quick refresher on the D mint mark. This tiny letter, placed just under the date on the coin's obverse side, indicates that the penny was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado. The Denver Mint has been producing coins for the United States since 1906, and it's well known for high-volume production. In 2003, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, which means that most of them are very common in circulation. But as we'll see, rarity in coins often doesn't come from how many were made. It comes from specific features, errors, or exceptional preservation. The obverse, or front, of the 2003 penny features the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. This design has been in continuous use for over a century, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Lincoln's profile faces right, with the word Liberty to his left and the date, along with the D mint mark, to his right. Above him, the words, "In God We Trust," arc along the top. On the reverse side, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The level of detail is remarkable. If you look closely under magnification, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, just as in the real building in Washington, D.C. The words, "United States of America," stretch along the upper rim. "E pluribus unum" sits just above the memorial, and the denomination, 1 cent, rests below. Now, for many people, a 2003 penny is just that, a penny. But for numismatists, or coin collectors, the story is much more interesting. In the world of coin collecting, three main factors determine a coin's value: rarity, condition, and demand. The 2003 penny has examples that check all three boxes under certain conditions. First, let's talk about condition. Most pennies you see have been passed from hand to hand, jangling in change jars, rubbing against other coins, and generally suffering the wear and tear of circulation. This wear dulls the original luster, softens the design details, and can even leave small scratches or nicks. Collectors, however, prize coins that look just as they did when they left the mint. These are called mint state coins, graded on a scale from MS60 to MS70, with MS70 being a perfect coin showing no signs of handling at all, even under magnification. A 2003 penny in high mint state condition, say MS67 or higher, is where things start to get exciting. These coins display a vibrant, original red color, known as full red in grading terminology, with sharp details and brilliant luster. They can be surprisingly hard to find, especially because pennies from recent decades were often handled carelessly right after leaving the mint. Many high-grade examples have been preserved in sealed rolls or taken directly from mint sets. Then there are the era coins, which is where the 2003 penny becomes truly fascinating. Even with modern technology, the minting process isn't perfect. Occasionally, mechanical slips, planchet flaws, or die issues create coins that are different from the standard design, and these mistakes can make them extremely collectible. Some 2003 pennies have been found with off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably away from the center. Others show double die errors, where parts of the lettering or design appear duplicated due to a misalignment during the die creation process. There are also examples with die cracks, raised lines on the coin caused by small fractures in the dies used to strike the coin's point. One of the most sought-after errors for the 2003 penny is a dramatic off-center strike where a portion of the blank planchet is left unstruck. These kinds of errors are rare because quality control usually catches them before they leave the mint, but when they slip through, they can command strong prices among collectors. Another important aspect to consider is the composition of the coin. By 2003, U.S. pennies were no longer made primarily of copper. Since 1982, they have been composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. This makes them lighter than older copper cents and gives them a slightly different feel. While the metal content alone doesn't make them valuable, it does influence how they age. Zinc cores are more prone to corrosion if the copper plating is breached, which makes pristine examples even more desirable. For collectors, the thrill often comes from finding one of these gems in the wild, a brilliant, uncirculated 2003 penny pulled from a roll of bank-wrapped cents, or spotting a rare error in loose change. The excitement of turning over an ordinary coin and discovering an unusual feature is one of the reasons coin collecting has captivated people for centuries. Now let's talk about the market. Even though millions of 2003 pennies exist, the ones that bring significant value are the exceptional ones, the highest grade examples or rare era varieties. In recent years, some of these top-graded coins have attracted strong bidding at coin auctions, with collectors willing to pay surprising amounts to secure them. It's worth noting that grading a coin professionally through services like PCGS or NGC can make a big difference in its market value. A raw, ungraded 2003 penny in nice shape might bring only a modest premium, but the same coin in a certified holder with a grade of MS67 or MS68 red can leap dramatically in price. That's because certified coins come with the assurance that their grade and authenticity have been verified by experts, which boosts buyer confidence. In the coin collecting community, the 2003 penny is often seen as a modern sleeper, a coin that many overlook today, but that could become more sought after as time passes and pristine examples become harder to find. Every year, more coins are lost to damage, mishandling, or simply being melted down in bulk scrap operations. Over time, the number of high-quality survivors naturally decreases. If you have a jar of pennies at home, or if you like searching through rolls from the bank, it's worth keeping an eye out for 2003 cents that stand out from the rest. Look for coins with sharp detail, no scratches or spots, and a strong, original red color. If you find one that looks like it just came off the mint press, it might be worth having it professionally graded, especially if you spot an unusual error. Collectors often say that the best time to start searching for modern rarities is now, while they're still relatively easy to find in circulation. Waiting until they're scarce usually means paying a much higher price later. And finally, what about the very top-tier examples? In the world of numismatics, it's always the combination of condition, rarity, and demand that pushes a coin into the spotlight. For the 2003 penny, that spotlight shines brightest on coins graded in the highest mint state levels with brilliant red color and flawless surfaces. The kind of coin that turns heads at auction houses and sends seasoned collectors reaching for their paddles. Which brings us to the question you've been waiting for: how much can one of these gems be worth? While ordinary circulated 2003 pennies will only buy you a gumball, the rarest, highest graded, and most sought-after examples have sold for an impressive sum, a staggering $9,266.